Hello ELM258 students. Welcome to another AutoSIM tutorial. In this one we're going to be working on Virtual Lab 6, which is on troubleshooting. And we're going to use the first circuit from Virtual Lab 5 as the troubleshooting platform. So you're going to have done that one first. So I've got this one here. I'm going to just open up the program. And before I do anything, I'm going to save it as something with a different name so I don't lose my original. So I'm just going to call this Virtual Lab 6. Now before I do anything, I want to make sure that this still works properly. So if you remember from that lab, what it's supposed to do is actuator A is supposed to extend. Then when it hits its sensor, actuator B extends. When its sensor B1 goes true, actuator C, and then actuator C retracts, B retracts, then A retracts. So it's this sequential process where each of the actuators has a sensor that triggers the following actuator to start, and its sensor triggers the next one, and so on. So let's just make sure it works. So we go to Program, Compile, then Connect, hit the green play button, and then turn on the dynamic display. Alright, and if I hit the Start button, A goes, then B, then C, C retracts, B retracts, A retracts. Okay, so this is working. So make sure yours is working before you go any further, because it's all going to be based on a properly working circuit. So I'm going to turn off dynamic display, hit the stop button, and then unconnect. So we need to make a couple of modifications to this in order to be able to use it for the troubleshooting. The first thing we're going to do is add a couple of switches. One is for electrical power to the common of the PLC outputs, and the other one is a pneumatic switch, which is going to be a master switch to supply compressed air to the system. That's going to make it a little more realistic. Usually you would have some kind of a power switch to turn the power on and off. So I'm going to just move this over a little bit, and I just need to add an object, and it's going to be electric, and it's under contacts. We want to scroll down to switch, normally open. And I'm just going to plop it right in there. And I'm going to label it, let's see, I'll just call it power switch. Next to the label won't appear. If I right click on this and I go to references, I can click show or hide, and it shows up. It's a little bit small, but there it is. Okay, so to add a valve for the compressed air, what I'm going to do first is get rid of the individual sources here. Actually, I'll grab one of these and bring it over here. And I'm just going to rotate it. So we need to add a manual air valve. And so we go to add an object down to pneumatic. And even though what we're adding is not going to be a push button, we're actually going to find what we need under push button normally open, and we'll make some changes to it. Alright, so the first change we have to make is we want to switch the placement of the two sections. We want this section with the exhaust going this way on the bottom and the other one going on the top. So I'm just going to mirror it vertically, and okay, now we have to change the actuators on either end. So what I want on the top is, instead of a spring, I want a valve that, this is the symbol for a valve that when you click it, it stays in position. It doesn't have to be held down. all the time. And on the other end, I'm going to replace the push button with another spring. So it should look like this. And I'm just going to get rid of this label here. Okay, the next thing I need to do is make sure it's in the unactuated position. So you'll notice it sort of switches back and forth here. So I wait for it to get to the unactuated position and click OK. Alright, now I just need to connect the lines. The air lines go, by default, the compressed air is going into a blocked port, and the air out to the system is going to this port that's going to have an exhaust port attached to it. So I just have to hook these up. And with AutoSIM, I actually have to attach an exhaust port to this in order for air to flow out of it. If you just leave it unconnected, it doesn't let the air flow out. So I'm going to copy this exhaust port, paste it, rotate it, and I'll just plop that on there. So now that's going to act like a master air valve that when I click it, it's going to turn the air on. I click it again, it'll turn the air off. Okay, now that I've made those two additions, I'm going to test it one more time with the switches. So I'm going to go to Program, Connect, hit the green play button, and Dynamic Display. Now, because we added these switches, I need to click the 24-volt switch to apply power to the common of the PLC input. And I also need to click the compressed air to supply compressed air. Now, if I hit the start button, the sequence should work. Great. Okay, now I have to make one more addition, so I'm going to stop Dynamic Display, hit the stop button here, and unconnect. What I want to add to this is a reset button, because when we're doing this troubleshooting exercise, there are going to be points where the process is going to get stuck partway through, and if you don't have a way of resetting the outputs back to off, there's no way to restart the program. So what I'm going to do is create another button. It's going to be a lot like the start push button. I'm just going to copy that, paste it, and I'm going to put it way out here on inputs 15. First I have to change the name of it to reset PB, reset push button. And I'm just going to connect that up. Okay, now I have to add reset to the symbol table on input 15. So my symbol table, I just right click, add. The name I'm going to call it just simply reset, and the associated variable is the input number, I15. So now that we have the reset button, we need to add another section of the ladder logic diagram. So I'm going to just reposition the windows here so we can see. Here's the original ladder logic. We're just going to leave that the way it is. And I'm actually going to create another ladder window. So you go up to Programs, right click, add a new folder, and I'm just going to call this Reset Outputs. And it's going to be a pretty simple program. I'm going to go to the palette and grab this basic rung with an input and an output. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this when we press the reset button. We're going to reset all of the outputs, all 6 of the outputs. So I have to go to the ladder blocks and change this to a reset type output. And then I just need to repeat this six times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just need to connect. So go to blocks, and need to put some elbow connectors in there. And then a T connector over here. Okay, so if I go to my symbol list, this is going to be reset, and then I just need to label these resets with all of my outputs: A extend, A retract, B extend, B retract, C extend, and C retract. Alright, so that'll be also working in the background. It's only going to take effect if I hit the reset button. It will then unlatch or reset all of the outputs. If I'm not touching the reset button, it's not going to have any effect. So now that we have the new program, the reset program in there, we need to recompile. So we go up here to Program, Compile, and then Connect. Press the green play button and dynamic display. And again, we want to make sure it still works. So remember, we've got this power switch we've got to click on, and the compressed air before anything will move, and then we hit the start button. And so there's our A, B, C extend, and then C, B, A retract.